Hi, Prakash.
Hi, Shubhankar. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. So, where are you currently right now?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, fine. So, shall we start with the question and answer round?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, we have identified you for a database developer.
Yes.
So, just share your experience. What you have done as a database developer, and what are the other experiences you have uh, as a part of database developer. Okay.
Yeah. I have total 13 years of experience, and I worked as a SQL developer, then worked on SQL Server integration, reporting, and analysis services. I also worked as certain tasks in the DBA side as well, like database maintenance when I started my career. Okay. And I worked as a performance tuning expert for a couple of projects. I worked as a data modeler for data warehouse projects and maintaining the warehouse projects, working on the performance issues and working on different, capacity planning teams and I worked as a Scrum Master too, like maintaining the couple of teams in the offshore and on-site. Okay. So when it comes to my day-to-day activities, I have to work on, creating the SQL Server stored procedures, working on the performance, and I also worked as database, I mean table modeling for the different projects as I mentioned, working on creating different data, excuse me. So different database objects like functions and like cursors and triggers. Okay. I worked as developing the SQL Server reportings like Tableau and and parameterized reports. Worked on deploying the reports into the report server manager. I also worked on um, managing the subscriptions for the various reports. Okay. In the point of contact for all the business users. Okay. I worked on creating the SSIS, like, integration packages for the different data sources like Oracle database and CSV and XML files. And I developed the packages using the XML configuration and used to deploy to the different environments like, lower and higher environment based on the configuration, configuration files. Okay. I also worked on, because currently we have all our data warehouse sitting in the SQL Server with the Splunk dashboards. Okay. I have to deal with the various data sources, grabbing, injecting the data from different data sources into the SQL Server. And meanwhile, we are working on migrating the SQL Server to the Snowflake database. And I have to work on the data modeling and how to work on, creating the stored procedure same from SQL Server to the Snowflake and creating the metadata for the various objects in the Snowflake. And we have a talent ETL tool we use for connect to the different data sources like SharePoint, CMDB, and like XML and APIs, and grabbing the data from different data sources into the Snowflake database,
Okay.
like kind of designing data modeling and managing the projects and here and there everything. Yeah. So that's all my experience.
Yeah. So, after hearing all of your achievements and your experience, it seems like you have a lot of experience as a SQL Server developer. So, just
Yes.
tell me one question. Just how many ways we can insert data to a particular table from a CSV source? So
Okay.
how many ways you can push that
Uh,
table?
excuse me. Well, so I can, for example, if it is a simple CSV file, like, there are multiple ways I can do instead. For example, if it is a pretty straight formatted data in a single CSV, I can use the BCP command, and I can run this BCP command through any Windows server or Linux server. Or I can schedule this simple command through Windows scheduler or any of the scheduler, like, enterprise scheduler, or what is called Atosys or controller. Okay, this is a simple way of, for inserting the data. For example, if my data is like unformatted, it's a complex, it's a combination of different, the sources, merging into a single CSV. Okay, so in that case, definitely, if I don't want to, insert a unformatted data, I have to use a certain ETL tool to format the data and insert. So in that case, I can use any ETL. For example, in my case, I can choose the SQL Server integration service, which I can use and format the data and insert into the database.
Okay, fine. So you talked about the BCP. Okay.
Yes, bulk
So
copy command.
yeah,
Yes.
program. Yeah. So the thing is that do you know, means if I give you three options, means
Mm-hmm.
suppose bulk copy, and I have asked you to work with bulk insert program, and as well as I have asked you to insert it through the export import wizard.
Mm-hmm.
So from your as you have lot of experience, so can you just tell me, yeah, out of these three, which will be more efficient? Means if I have around 20 millions data,
Mm-hmm.
so which will be more efficient out of three?
Um, it depends on I have to look at the data first. Okay. For example, if my data is very simple, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Suppose it's a very
then
simple,
yeah,
no
then
complex.
I can use the BCP, because BCP is very fast compared to ETL, because
Uh,
it will try to insert every, I think it's a bunch of, I think 10,000 records per insert. Okay, so that is very quick compared to the ETL.
okay. So tell me one thing. Suppose I am just giving you one sentence, like. The elephant has four legs. Okay, so just tell me the query through which you can identify the number of vowels it has.
Number of,
Vowels, vowels, consonant, vowels. A, E, I, O, U.
in a string, you are saying, right?
Yeah, in that string. Suppose I am given you one string that the elephant has four legs. Okay, so here a lot of vowels are there. Elephant E starting with E is vowel. Then whenever we have vowel, we will get the count of the vowel from this string. So I need that query, how you are going to get the number
Well,
of vowels.
so in this case, what I do simply, I can read that string into a variable first. Okay. So what I can use, I can start reading that, the string with the substring function. Okay. And where I can mention, substring matches to AEIOU, then I can use a one counter. Okay. So whenever this AEIOU, the vowels is happening, then I can increase the counter. So at the end of this variable, for example, finished, so based on my counter, I can count the number of vowels in the string.
Okay. So suppose we have one table and we have around 10 to 15 duplicate records over there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just what are the ways to remove the duplicate? Not only remove that, I just want to select the record which are not duplicate. Means I want to select the distinct record, but I am not going to allow you to use the distinct keyword. So how you are going to get
Well,
it?
so we have a CTE is a beautiful way, like, where I can use the CTE, where I can use the row function. Okay, I can define a row for each of the row function.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So
Uh,
I'm just cutting down the option. Yeah, you have properly mentioned city. Now I am going to tell you, you are not allowed to use row number, row function as well. Now how you are
Okay.
going?
So, if I have a chance, I can alter the table. I can add a, like the distinct column. Okay.
Mhm.
So, where I can assign the, the row number for each record. Okay. Then what I do, I can do, what is it? Uh, Order by, I can do the table. Okay. So for example, let's say three records are same, but my distinct number is, for example, 5, 10, 15. So what I do, I can use the min of that identity column for all the records. So I can fetch only the one record from out of many records.
Oh, okay.
You got it
Okay.
right. For
So
example, I have
yeah,
three
yeah,
rows. So I
yeah,
have distinct
yeah.
for
I got you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's fine.
So I mean,
That's
that's another
another
way.
good method, right?
Yeah.
So just tell me, what are the ways we can call a SSIS package?
SSIS package, as it is a executable. Okay. So I can call a SSIS package through command line. Okay. Or I can call the SSIS package in PowerShell. Okay. Um, so, I mean, like I can call it through the command line.
Okay, so you haven't called any SSIS package through SQL job?
SQL job I haven't configured. So what's the way? Because the organizations I worked where we have the schedulers like enterprise scheduler, for example, AutoSys, controller, or so what we used to do, we are not supposed to call the SSIS package directly in the SQL server. Okay. What the way is like, we have to con excuse me. Sorry, I'm having cough,
No,
like,
no, no.
excuse me.
That's
Okay.
totally fine.
So
You can talk.
the way we have to configure any job which we developed is supposed to go through the AutoSys, okay, or any enterprise scheduler tool, okay. So we have to call this, the SSIS package, okay, but the AutoSys is sitting on the Linux server, for example, okay. So what in that case, what I have to do, I have to call a batch file, okay. Within the batch file, I can call this SSIS package. Means I can copy this SSIS package to a particular path in the Windows server. Okay.
Okay.
In the Unix, excuse me, in the Unix batch, I can define the path of this SSIS package so that the AutoSys will trigger that job so that it will go to the Unix box, and Unix box will have the path of the Windows server. Then it will call that SSIS package. But as you said, like even excuse me, I can call SSS, excuse me, I can call SSS package in the through the SQL Server agent job as well. That is a very simple.
Okay, fine. So how what are
For
the
example, if I do a project deployment model, for example, where if I have a SSS DB catalog, for example, okay, so if I manage through all my packages through SSS catalog, so obviously I can go through this SSS agent job. I can't hear you, Subankar. Am I audible?
your voice is not coming? Yeah,
Can you hear
Prakash.
me?
Now
Can
it's
you hear
fine.
me?
You can hear me, right,
Yes. Now it's good.
Prakash?
Yes, I can hear you, Shubhankar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, please.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. So, do you know what? Yeah, fine. Yeah. Do you know what is dot .ispsc file?
Uh, Shubhankar, your voice is it's breaking.
Yeah, can you tell me?
Yeah. So can you excuse me? Can you repeat the question?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Shubhankar. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Shubhankar? I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you, Shubhankar.
Uh, yeah, now it's fine.
Yes, Shubhankar. Yeah.
Yeah,
What was
do
your
you
question?
know what is .ispac file?
Hi,
Yeah,
Shubhankar.
I can also hear you. So I have
Uh, your voice is completely breaking.
hello.
Hey, Shubhankar.
Yeah. So I think I have dropped because of network
Okay.
issue. So now it's fine, right?
Yes, now it's clear.
Yeah. So my question is, do you know what is .ispac file? PS.
ISPSC.
It is related to SSIS. I am just going to give you one hint that it is related to storage of SSIS package. Means you can save SSIS package in some physical location. So we will be needing this format that .ispac to save SSIS package in some other location. So you need to tell me if you know what is ISPSC, and through ISPSC where we are going to save the SSIS package. That is my question.
Okay, so I frankly speaking, ISPSC method, excuse me, I haven't had because I think it should be
Okay,
like a
perfectly fine. No issue.
I'm
Okay,
I'm sorry
so
about that, but if I can recollect, I can try to I can try to grab
yeah.
something like
Just go ahead. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
so ISPSC. I'm not sure the complete acronym of ISPSC, but is it something like a global parameter or the global
No,
variable for the SSIS package or something? Sorry
no, no,
about
no.
that. I'm
No, the
sorry.
thing is that when we are going to save SSIS package in SQL Server, we need to just import the file, and the file extension should be .isps. Okay, so that is
Oh,
the
my bad.
no issues, no issues. It's
Okay,
perfectly fine.
sorry.
So
Yeah, okay.
okay, no issues. So just tell me, suppose we want the drive space. Okay, so drive space of a server. So can we fetch it out through the SSIS package?
Drive space of a system. Okay, so that is possible. All the ways I have to execute a simple command wherein it have access to that respected drive. What's a command? It should be a Windows command to verify the space. Okay. Uh,
Okay, so
what?
no, so just tell me. Did you work in loop container in SSIS package?
Yes.
So what you have done to loop container? Means, why you have used the loop container? What is the necessity of that?
So loop container is like excuse me. For example, if I have to process the multiple files residing in a particular folder, for example, okay. So what I have to do, I have to use the the loop concept in the SSIS package, okay. So wherein I can define the container path, okay, so that it will go through reading the each and every file, then process the data into the respective table into the SQL Server.
Okay, fine. So
So
what
we
is
have
condition?
loop containers like for each loop container, then I
Correct,
mean,
correct, correct. So
and sequence container.
right.
I worked in the sequence container, but not in the for each loop container. And
Oh,
and it has multiple connections, like read the container as a .NET file, and some variables. I mean, different options for that reading the container. Sorry, yeah, please go ahead.
okay. So have you ever experienced with the script tasks?
Script task, like, yes, like in my previous project, for example, okay. So we have lot of chunk of data, okay, which we are not able to handle through native SSS package components. Okay, so we used the .NET code wherein we ingested the data as a variables into the .NET code. Then we process the data. Then we inserted into the SQL Server database, and we also use this SQL, I mean .NET component, like a script for the sending the messages, like attachments through this email component.
Okay. So can we save one SSRS report in a server location?
Yes, that is a subscription option. Okay, so
Okay.
wherein I have two options. You can send out an email, or you can save that the report as a file in a Windows location.
Okay. So what is the difference between a shared data source and an embedded data source?
Excuse me. So a embedded data source is comprises within a report. Okay, means which can be I mean, the scope of that what is that, so data sources within that report, when it comes to the shared data source, which is shared across the different reports.
Okay. Uh, okay. So suppose you have uploaded one report. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you have used the embedded data source in that
Okay.
report. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can we switch it to shared data source,
Yes.
uploading that report to the portal?
Mm, so shifting from native data source, shared data source, you cannot do it once you deploy. Excuse me. Excuse me. So once you deploy into the what is that, report server manager, but I have to do it in the report builder.
Okay. Means you need to reconfigure or rebuild the report.
Yes, yes, in the
Oh,
report builder.
okay. So do you know what is drill down report?
Yes. So drill down report is basically, wherein, uh, 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 the summary or the content of the report will depend on the uh, the variable or the value selected at the parameter level. So that is called the drill down report.
Okay. So do you know what is link server?
A linked server is used to, is it a linked server in a reporting services, or is it linked server in the SQL server?
No, my question is what is link server in SQL Server?
So
Maybe in
linked server is basically accessing the data from a different outside the database or outside the SQL server. Means,
suppose okay, suppose
excuse me.
you have one instance where you need one table. I mean, so you have
Mm-hmm,
written one query and you need to access one table
mm-hmm,
for at 10 times, okay, from different server. It is situated in another server. uh,
okay.
so what you will do, you will every time whenever you need to use that table, you are just writing link server name, then server name, then schema name and the table name, that you are going to follow this way, or you are going to
No,
okay,
basically, for example, so what I do, I can define a linked server in the SQL server. Okay. So once I got the linked server established is done. So for example, if my requirement is very frequently, I have to use the data from a different server. Okay. So what I do, I can refresh through a SQL Server agent job. For example, I create one native table, for example, where I am writing my query, my SQL Server is, query is residing. So what I do, I can refresh, for example, let's say in a day once. Okay. So what I do in my query, I can use this direct table, instead of, accessing every time, the outside server, because, making the connection through a linked server to outside the server is, it's like time taking, and, if the data is very huge, then it has to, penetrate through the network, then it will be time taking and impacting my query.
okay. So do you know what is fill factor?
Fill factor is nothing but the percentage of space filled in a page, in a SQL Server page, is called a fill factor.
So if you want the faster execution of a query, so how you
Okay.
are going to design a fill factor of a page?
So fill factor is defined is 100, which means as much as SQL Server, store the data. So it will keep the data in the SQL Server. Uh, excuse me, in the page. Okay. So ideally, according to the Microsoft, we are not supposed to touch the fill factor. Okay, because which is kind of a, touching the what is it? Touching the basic component of a SQL Server, which is not recommended. Okay, but I have never done touching the the page fill factor for a SQL Server, wherein I work for various performance issues basically. Okay, so probably that might be a last option, changing the fill factor for the data pages for a SQL Server. But having said that, yes, the possibility is we can change the fill factor. Okay. But once I reconfigure the fill factor, which is a simple component like, configure, reconfigure, but I think I have to restart my SQL Server in order to effect this change.
Okay. So suppose last week you have done one SQL Server upgradation. Okay. Suppose
Mm-hmm.
you have upgraded your version.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are seeing that the query which used to take 5 to 10 minutes to execute, now it
Mm-hmm.
is taking a 10 to 12 hours, even it is not completing. So you have checked whatever possibilities, you have already checked the indexes, whatever index can, tables can, you have already done everything. So means now what you are going to do, means how you are going to
Well,
next.
well, so basically, as you said, like, as a SQL developer, I have to look at the statistics of the query, for example. Okay. So whenever the upgradations will happen, the existing query plans from the query store are cached out. Okay. Then, when I try to submit a new query after the upgrade, it tries to prepare a new execution plan for the for the query. So this query may not be preparing a efficient plan, because it doesn't have the statistics of the tables. Underlying tables are up to date. Okay. So I have to look at the statistics of the table, if the statistics are up to date or not. Okay. Means, which also depends on the index fragmentation. Okay. So as you said, like, for example, my index fragmentation is very good, less than 5%, which means my statistics are up to date. Okay. So I have to look at if there is any blockings are happening on the query while my, the execution is happening. Okay. For example, there are no other queries are getting executed during the time. Okay. So the next thing is, uh, I have to I have to look at um,
Okay, so
for
just to
example,
tell me one thing. Okay, I got your point. Just tell me one thing. Do you know what is hints?
uh, is the query hints. Okay,
Correct,
so
correct.
the query hints are I think those are SQL Server design level components wherein SQL Server uses these query hints to prepare the best plan.
Means, have you ever used any hints in your query?
Oh, query hints, no. Query hints, no, no.
Okay,
I
fine.
haven't used the query hints.
Okay. So, okay. So, have you ever used case when statement? Case when
Yes.
then?
Case statements,
Can you
yes.
just give me one example? I just need the query. Suppose you just create one example and just make me understand when we can use the case when statement.
Okay. For example, I have a scenario wherein, for example, my query tries to fetch the data from a particular table. Okay.
Okay.
So the scenario is that the other table should be up to date, for example. I mean, when my query tries to fetch the data. So sometimes as other table is depending on the jobs, for example, okay, by the time my query executing try to fetch the data, if the table is not up to date, then I have to wait my job to particular seconds, for example. Let's say what I do, I can use a case, okay. Okay, if you are not getting these now expected records, this number of requests, then wait delay for 10 seconds, then re-query the table, okay, till it will get the expected amount of records, then then go to the rest of the execution of that query.
Okay. Perfect. So just tell me one thing. What is SQL Server queue?
uh, 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 what is that, Shubhankar? SQL Server
Uh, SQL Server queue, service
queue.
broker queue.
SQL Server queue. I didn't get the context. I mean, any hint for that queue, like
Yeah. So means, do you know what is service broker in SQL Server?
service broker? Service broker.
Okay,
I
no
have
problem.
an idea. Sorry.
Okay, no issue. So just tell me.
Queue is kind of a memory concept, I think, right? Or is it a
No,
query concept?
it's something that how you are going to process your request. Okay. So if you
Oh,
want,
it's kind of priority. I have to write the
right,
priority
right,
of
right, right,
my, like, assign the priority of
right, right.
execution of a particular what is that, the query. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, I got it. For example, if I have multiple consecutive, SQL statements are submitted to a
Correct,
SQL server,
correct.
then SQL server try to, fetch a request which has a higher priority plan. So which is kind of queuing concept. I mean, I have an idea. So now I got it. Yeah. So yeah, that is with the hint, priority hint. Correct.
Okay, fine. So, means, did you get any opportunity to work the DBA functions? Means, did you take the backup or take do the restoration, or have you ever created any
Oh,
user?
definitely. As I said, like, as a developer, even I used to perform, refreshing the SQL Server databases for our development purpose for the lower environments. Even I replaced the Oracle databases too, because our projects were, combination of SQL and Oracle database. As I said, like, we used to, prepare the SSS packages to, grab the data from Oracle to the SQL Server. So yeah, yeah, yes, that I will do. Yes.
Okay, so just tell me what is orphan user?
Orphan user is wherein it doesn't have any login associated with that user,
Okay,
which
fine.
happens, for example, if I migrated a database, for example, from one instance to another instance. Okay. So when I try to use the user in the other instance, then it doesn't have a matching some SQL Server generates certain 34 digits of numeric something association with every login. Okay,
That,
that binary element is not matching with the actual primary instance, that is called the orphan user, wherein
okay,
um,
fine. So can you mention some of the database role name?
oh yeah. So database roles we have sysadmin, then we have DB underscore reader and DB underscore writer, then DDL admin, then sysadmin, and then uh,
Is sysadmin a database role?
yes, sysadmin wherein we give it for all the service accounts. Yes.
No, my question is it a server role or database role? Sysadmin?
No, sysadmin. Sorry, DB underscore owner is the database role and sysadmin is
Okay,
the
okay.
server role. My bad. I'm
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
it back.
right, right. No, no, not an issue. So, suppose you want to take the backup of a database. So, what kind of role you are going to assign?
So, but either, excuse me, I should be part of a DB underscore backup server level role, or if I am a sysadmin, I can perform it.
Okay. So, suppose you are not able to execute one stored procedure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose you are getting one issue that execute permission is not granted to your login ID. So, how you are going to proceed? Means what is lacking over there?
Well, excuse me. So, I have to identify the user ID with which the authentication is happening first. Okay. So, for example, is it a production issue or is it a development, like individual developer having an issue while executing this?
Yeah, yeah, it's an suppose one individual user issue.
Well, so individual user, for example, ideally, for example, in lower environments, like for all the developers, they should be part of, DB underscore owner, ideally. Okay. For example, let's say, because I have to look at the SQL Server logs, what is the username, how he is authenticating. Okay. So then I can go to, to the database, okay, whether he's part of any of the role or not. As I said, like, the DB underscore owner or DB underscore reader, writer, all right. So for example, if he is not part of that, then, I will add to the respective role.
Okay.
For
So
example,
suppose you are
because
not.
SQL Server, all users will be authenticated through the AD authentication, through the Windows authentication, right? So I can use the Windows authentication, then I will add in, resolve into the appropriate user in the SQL Server database, then I can add him to the respected role within the database.
Perfect. So just tell me one thing. What is the difference between a live execution plan and estimated execution plan?
So, well, what SQL Server tries to do, for example, if I go, as I mentioned, like if I go to the, the execution statistics of a plan, for example, so every execution plan has, the estimated and the actual execution. So the estimation is like wherein, the SQL Server, for example, before the actual execution, okay, so the SQL Server tries to calculate the execution plan using the query hints. Okay, so that is called the estimation plan. Okay, so that should be in a millisecond. So but when it's try to actually execute the plan, that wherein that time it will tries to collect the statistics. So this actual execution plan versus the estimated execution plans will vary. So if they are very closer, then my plan is very efficient. For example, if there is a very variance between these two, then I have to look at what's happening, why it is the variance between these two plans, like estimation and the actual.
Okay, so when we are in development phase, means we are writing one query and it is still not in production.
Mm-hmm.
So in our development phase, we are going to make some changes in the query based on the execution plan. So which
Mm-hmm.
execution plan we are going to choose?
Well, the SQL Server plan, by default, SQL Server, as I said, like there are algorithms behind the SQL Server, which will be fetched based on the SQL Server. For example, I could remember, I recollect them. So, there is a plan called, I think, I couldn't remember. There are three plans basically SQL Server tries to, architecturally tries to, do the plan. Um, it all
Okay.
depends on my data, or the sort of the structure of the my data. If my data is unique, then it will, I mean, I'm talking about behind the scene, those are
Okay.
called,
So just tell me
I
another
think the
question. Just,
sort plans within the SQL Server. So there are
third plan
different
is
sort.
live execution plan.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so just tell me one thing. Just you have one folder, and in that folder you have find three SSIS packages. Okay, so how you are going to means you are not you do not have any beats over there, so you are not able to open that SSIS package. No data tools, no beats are there. So how you are going to identify the version of each SSIS package?
The version of the SSS package I can open in Visual Studio. Okay, wherein I
No,
can
no,
find the.
you are not allowed to open it in Visual Studio, in SQL Server Data Tools, or any Business Intelligence Studio. Just you can just means what
Can
you
I
have.
open it in a XML, like, XML
Yeah,
format, any
you can open.
SSIS
Just
package?
if you just select open with edit, then automatically
Yes.
it will be an XML
Yep.
file. So
So which gonna give me a hint? I think the version of the the SSIS package in the XML.
yeah, so definitely. So I need that tag name, means under which tag the version name will be stored.
Well, so that comes under the package configuration parameters.
No.
Mhm. What are the different the version? Is it not under the registry? It should be a
So
variable like.
okay, another question is there. So suppose we just want to import the table data in some Excel. Okay, but when we use the data flow task, it is just giving one Excel driver related issue. Okay, so what will be the next step for us?
So this is very basic error that I will get because of the the driver and the compatibility issues with the SQL Server. For example, I have a SQL Server 2016 which doesn't accept the Excel, for example, 97 or 2010, right? Okay. So this is kind of a compatibility driver level. I have to choose the appropriate Excel version for that respected SQL version.
Okay,
Like
fine.
for example, we have different xlx and xls. For example, the xls was the extension for the older excel files. I can access them till SQL Server 2012, not 12 even, yeah, 12 I think. But when it comes to the 2016, it is compatible with the .xlx and should be Excel 2016 or more, the version.
Okay. So have you ever encountered with Unicode and non-Unicode version related issues while developing the data flow task in SSIS package?
Gel, that's correct. Like Unicode, non-Unicode, that's correct. While because all SQL Server tries to read the data as a Unicode mostly. Okay. Yes, that I come across, and I have to look at the input and output. What is that? Input output column names for while it is reading the data from a source.
Okay. So accordingly, we need to perform
Yes,
the conversion, data
correct.
conversion.
For example, what SSIS package tries to expect the data as in a unique format. For example, even though my input, I'm reading a, sorry, excuse me. So I'm reading a date, for example, when it comes to the SQL's SSIS package, because SSIS package has its own language, like the Excel have. So it always try to read a data which is compatible to SSIS. So that's why even though my input is the date, but that date is not in a format of SSIS package, DT underscore, the value. So I have to convert the date to the actual SSIS package compatible date. Then I have to read the data.
Okay. So, do you know what is sequence in Oracle?
Sequence?
Yes, sequence keyword, a keyword in Oracle sequence. Do you have any idea?
No, sequence, no idea. No.
Okay, okay, fine. So, just you want to create one table, and you have given first column as a serial number, and you want that this serial number should be auto incremented. Okay, so how
Oh,
you are going
sequence.
to design that table?
I think that should be in SQL Server, that should be identity column, but in Oracle,
That is
I think
that
that
is
should be a
sequence.
sequence column type.
Yeah, yeah, sequence. Okay, okay, fine, Prakash. It's an nice interview, and nice to meet with you also. So, if you have any question, then you can ask, or we can end this session.
Yeah, thank you, Shubhankar, and nice having session with you. I'm sorry about my cough and, sorry in between the
No, no,
disturbances.
no. That's perfectly fine.
Uh,
Everywhere
um,
pandemic is happening, and nobody knows what is going over there. So it's perfectly fine. No issue.
I'm good.
No
I'm
need.
good. Like, I mean, yeah, this is very good interactive session. Whichever I left unattended answers, I try to grab them, whenever I have some time. Yeah. Thank you so much
Yeah, yeah,
and nice
fine.
talking to you. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks.
you're from, I don't know, like you're from
India.
Vetusa or, oh, you're from India. Okay. Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you so much,
Okay.
Shubhakar. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye. Good night.